All right, the Ohio State football team is at the White House today celebrating the Buckeyes' national championship win. So moments ago, the White House pool cameras captured a serious fumble.
It happened in a flash, but the echo of it will linger for a while longer than anyone in that room probably imagined. The camera, ever watchful, caught it. Not just the celebration, not just the smiles and tradition and polished shoes, but something else. Something unscripted. Something unforgettable. The Ohio State Buckeyes, fresh off their national championship victory, stood proud inside the ornate walls of the White House. This was their moment, the culmination of relentless hard work, shattered expectations, bruised bodies, and unbreakable wills. Their presence there wasn't just a ceremonial courtesy, it was a coronation. But glory has a sense of humor, the kind that waits for you to slip when you least expect it. As the pool cameras zoomed in, panning across the proud faces of the team, the coaching staff, and the distinguished guests, the atmosphere carried the solemnity of history. Every person in the room, from the players to the president, had their attention on the trophy, the symbol of victory and sacrifice, the result of months of struggle. A weight not just of metal, but of memories and effort. It was being presented, passed, honored. And then it slipped. In a second that stretched like slow motion, the national championship trophy tumbled from the hands of Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. A sharp intake of breath. A thud. A silence that wasn't just about embarrassment. It was about what had just happened to something sacred. The kind of moment you don't forget, no matter how much you want to. The room froze. Eyes widened. Jaws tightened. And then came the moment that lingered in the air like thick smoke. Was this real? Was this really happening? It was. The trophy, the very emblem of months of sweat, heart, and spirit, now lay awkwardly on the White House floor. For a moment, the world stood still. The president stood nearby, momentarily caught between decorum and disbelief. The players, some too stunned to react, others already moving to assess the damage, were in a situation none of them could have predicted. The cameras didn't flinch. They captured every second, every inch of that fall, every ripple of tension that followed. What makes this moment more than a simple fumble is the stage it happened on. This wasn't a locker room accident. This wasn't a careless intern in a storage closet. This was the White House, the symbolic heart of American power. A place where every step is choreographed, every angle accounted for. And yet it happened here. Vance, known for his fiery rhetoric and sharp presence in the political arena, found himself in a deeply human moment. A moment where reputation and image couldn't mask a slip of the hands. He bent to retrieve the trophy, handling it now with a mix of urgency and regret, while forced smiles returned to the room like masks being reshaped. What was a national champion's dream for the Ohio State team suddenly turned into something else entirely. They had fought through adversity to earn their rightful place on that stage, only to have their moment of glory tainted in such a public way. It wasn't just a trophy being dropped. It felt like the team's spirit, their pride, had fallen too. The weight of it, this fleeting lapse in perfection, was heavier than any defeat they had ever encountered on the field. It wasn't the loss of the game that stung. It was the sudden vulnerability of a moment that should have been celebrated. The fans, who had cheered so hard for this victory, now held their breath with them. One could almost feel the pulse of the nation's college football fans skip a beat. Not because a trophy can't be repaired. Not because it was the end of the world. But because these symbols matter. They are not just awards. They are vessels of memory. They represent the blood, sweat, and countless sacrifices of athletes who pour their hearts into the game. The Buckeyes had fought through a storm of criticism, injury setbacks, and impossible odds to earn that trophy. The trophy wasn't just a reminder of the season. It was a beacon of everything they had gone through to get there. That fall, it wasn't just a drop. It felt personal. It felt like the universe, with its ironic timing, had decided to remind them of something deeper. That no matter how hard you work, no matter how high you rise, the floor is always closer than you think. And in a world where perception is everything, the visuals of this incident will linger longer than the speech notes or photo ops from the day. Memes were already being born before the trophy had even been picked up. Twitter lit up like wildfire. Vance fumbled harder than Michigan's defense, one user quipped. Another simply posted the video with the caption, "Bro." But in the middle of the internet's amusement lies a deeper beat, a reminder of how fragile pride can be. How, even in rooms filled with powerful people and glorious achievements, all it takes is one slip to humble the narrative. The Buckeyes didn't ask for this. They didn't train for this. Their legacy is not defined by what happened in that room. But the image of that moment may follow them longer than any celebration speech. They earned their place in history, not because of what happened in the White House, but because of what they overcame to get there. Still, the sting of that slip, the awkwardness of it, the way it caught them off guard, will remain in the minds of all who witnessed it. And somewhere, in the back of their minds, they knew something the rest of the world didn't quite grasp. Sometimes the victory is less about the tangible symbols of it, the trophies, the awards, the accolades, and more about the experience. About the journey, the fight, the story you get to tell. Still, maybe there's something poetic here. That even at the peak of achievement, we're reminded how delicate victory can be. That no matter how high we climb, gravity waits with patience. It doesn't care about titles. It doesn't care about championships. It just waits. This wasn't the story they planned to write at the White House, but it's the one people will talk about. A story that has already been spun 1,000 different ways. Online, on TV, in the halls of colleges, in family living rooms, and on sports radio. It's the story of a momentary fall that will echo for much longer than the victory itself. And if you followed this far, if you felt that secondhand sting of awkwardness or the gut drop of a dream moment being shattered by human error, take a moment right now. Hit that subscribe button. Because here, we don't just bring you headlines, we bring you what really happens when the camera doesn't blink. And trust me, you'll want to be here for what's coming next. As for Vance, the senator's office later issued a brief statement calling the incident unfortunate but harmless, and assuring that no permanent damage was done to the trophy. The Buckeyes representatives confirmed that the hardware was largely intact, though one team staffer was overheard quietly muttering about scratches. But those scratches weren't the worst part. The worst part was the ripple effect. The weight of the moment, the humiliation that suddenly redefined what had been a glorious day, was carried across social media like wildfire. The Buckeyes had worked their entire season for that moment. And then, just like that, it was turned into a moment of mockery. A fall, a fumble, a lapse. Even if no gold was truly marred, a little dignity was. Later that evening, on talk shows and in sports bars, in dorm rooms and dinner tables, people relived the moment again and again. Rewatching, rewinding, commenting, judging, laughing. And somewhere in all of that chatter is the faint sound of a lesson echoing. Championships are earned, not just in scoreboards and end zones, but in the quiet care of how we honor them afterward, in how we rise again after a fall. Maybe next time there'll be gloves, or a firmer grip, or just a little less haste in the ceremonial handoff. Maybe next time, the trophy will stay high in the air, as it was always meant to be. But for now, the image is etched. The victorious Buckeyes, a room full of pride, a single misstep, and the sound of something sacred hitting the floor. Because sometimes the loudest moment is the one no one expected to hear.